through, reading from Bhagavad Gita. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naranchaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jayamudire Nashtaprayasu Bhadresu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttamasloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. Reading from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 3, title Karma Yoga, verse 33. Shadrasham chestate shavsha swasha prakritar jnanavan api prakritim yanti bhutani nigraha kim karishyati. Sadrasham chestate shavsha prakritir jnanavanapi prakritim yanti bhutani nigraha kim karishyati. Sadrasham chestate svasya prakritir jnanavanapi prakritim yanti bhutani nigraham kim karishyati. Word by word meaning. Sadrasham, accordingly, chestate, tries, swasya, by his own, prakriti, modes of nature, jnanavan, learned, api, although, prakriti, nature, yanti, undergo, bhutani, all living entities, nigraha, repression, kim, what, karishyati, can do. Translation by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Even a man of knowledge acts according to his own nature. For everyone follows the nature he has acquired from the three modes. What can repression accomplish? Unless one, purport by His Divine Grace, unless one is situated on the transcendental platform of Krishna consciousness, he cannot get free from the influence of the modes of material nature, as it is confirmed by the Lord in the 7th chapter, 7.14. Therefore, even for the most highly educated person on the mundane plane, it is impossible to get out of the entanglement of Maya simply by theoretical knowledge or by separating the soul from the body. There are so many so-called spiritualists who outwardly pose as advanced in the science, but inwardly or privately are completely under particular modes of nature, which they are unable to surpass. Academically, one may be very learned, but because of his long association with material nature, he is in bondage. Krishna consciousness helps one to get out of the material entanglement, even though one may be engaged in his prescribed duties in terms of material existence. Therefore, without being fully in Krishna consciousness, one should not give up his occupational duties. No one should suddenly give up his prescribed duties and become a so-called yogi or transcendentalist artificially. It is therefore to be situated, it is better to be situated in one's position and to try to attain Krishna consciousness under superior training. Thus, one may be freed from the clutches of Krishna's Maya. Om Agyanati Virandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namo Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamaiham Dadati Swapadantikam Bandeham Sri Guru Sri Uttapada Kamalam Sri Guru Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Visakha Vitamsha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Prasavanu Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpataru Vrishchakapa Sindhu Bhaivacha Patitanam Pavanevyo Vaishnavevyo Namo Namo Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Adi Gaur Bhaktabinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So thank you so much. This is such a powerful verse, and it kind of expresses about what is Karma Yoga. Actually, this verse is right in the middle of this chapter, and it is 33. But here, there is a very twist what Krishna is giving. Krishna is saying Even a man of knowledge acts according to his own nature. For everyone follows the nature he has acquired from the three modes. What can repression accomplish? Let's focus on that repression. What is repression? Repression is more like discipline, and and this is the most confused verse, and people have taken this verse and have presented it upside down. And you see this last line here, Nigraha Kim Karishyati. This line is the motto and logo of many other spiritual organizations. And this is exactly how this verse is the heart of kar- karma yoga. And it is very difficult to understand. Even I had difficulty, and I'm trying to overcome that difficulty by presenting, and would like to hear from you at the end, in the 15-20 minutes we have for question answers. What can repression accomplish? And we have to really think deep into what Krishna is saying. What can repression accomplish? And we have to really think closely. And then Krishna is also saying, therefore, His Divine Grace is saying in this verse, therefore, without being fully in Krishna consciousness, one should not give up his occupational duties. No one should certainly give up his prescribed duties and become so-called yogis or sannyasis. So it is very important to understand our nature, our habits, because these habits are controlled by the modes of material nature, which is the external energy of Krishna. And often it is very difficult to understand. That's why many families are falling apart, many jobs are falling apart, and there is so much of challenges because it's very difficult to overcome this habit. And this overcoming of the habit is nothing but a sense of practice. And that is exactly why Prabhupada's method is so popular in this world currently. And we'll dive deep into it. So as a precursor, chapter 2, Sankhya Yoga, nothing but Yogana Yoga, Krishna explained a lot. And there is a lot of confusion because we think we are the body. And because of that, today we have infighting between black and white, because we pose that this body is an independent identity. There are a lot of fights between Germans and Jews. There are a lot of fights between different castes. There are different fights between different sect of people because they all are thinking that we are the body, and it is the greatest misconception. And that is why Bhagavad Gita is the most quoted scripture in the whole world, because that is exactly where this religiosity of the Hindu aspect is being unshackled. And there is not a single word called Hindu in Bhagavad Gita. And more we dwell on it, discuss about it, and here we understand there is still something we have to learn. So as a precursor before chapter 3, chapter 2, Krishna is establishing that we are not the body. And right in chapter 2, Krishna is saying, Durene avaram karma, buddhi yoga dhananjaya. That means we have to use our intelligence in getting rid of this abominable activities. See, this knowledge is a gift to us by the Supreme. But often we think we are the proprietor. And because of that, we use this knowledge which we have acquired in a very different way. And those who want to enjoy the fruits of the work are misers. So Krishna is saying, before even you end up doing any karma, we have to start using our knowledge properly. If we use our knowledge properly in the things the Supreme Personality of Godhead is instructing, then we will be successful in understanding who we are and who is the Supreme and the relationship between the Supreme. And that is where it is very critical to understand what is Karma Yoga, to understand Bhagavad Gita. And that is where, if you think about Karma Yoga, we can be abbreviated as tree. In the first 1 to 9 verse, there is exchanges between Krishna and Arjuna about Tyaga, renunciation. And then from 10 to 16, they are discussing about the rungs of the yoga ladder. And from 17 to 35, we will discuss about the exemplary karma yogis. And it is very important in this age where we all need to have some aspect of doing something, karma, doing something. Without doing something, we cannot live. And take some inspiration from this exemplary karma yogis. And then, which is exactly this 3.33, talks about this exemplary karma yogi traits. And then the last E stands for the external enemy, which is from verse 36 to 43. So staying with that theme, in 1 and 2, if you see right there in the picture on the right, Arjuna is about to fight. And then he says, okay, he's taking the initiative to fight. Then he goes, asks Krishna to take the chariot right to the middle. And then when Krishna is taking the chariot to the middle, then Vishmadev saw that Krishna, his greatest student, is taking the chariot by asking Krishna to the middle. And the shots were about to be fired. And you think about a cricket match in which everybody is waiting for the first ball to be bowled, and there are probably 100,000 people in the stadium, and there are bowlers there waiting to bowl you. But instead of you facing the batting, you being from the batting side, you go to the middle and you put your hand in the head, like how you see Arjuna on the left side of the picture. He is confused. And then Vishmadev says, stop, don't shoot. Looks like there is some confusion. Looks like there is something going on which needs bigger understanding. So right in the middle of a battle. So there is also a reference that whenever the jewels are kept in a jewelry shop, the jewels are shining. You would see the background of those jewels are those black boxes or blue boxes, because the jewel can only shine with a very dark and contrasting background. And what a way to start the war. And then in the darkest background with millions of people waiting to shoot each other, the greatest signature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead was spoken in the form of Bhagavad Gita. And look at the contrasting situation. About to fight, very confusion in the left. So it started with renunciation, right? It started with renunciation of action, tyaga. And it is confusing to every one of us that when to do this. See, generally when you play cricket or whatever, it's very confusing whether to go forward or backward to play a shot. Likewise, in every day-to-day life, whether I should do this, whether I should chant in the morning, I don't have time. There is confusion in every step of the way. And with that confusion, how to renunciate. That is a challenge. And how overcoming that is the solution we're going to discuss from this chapter. So spiritual help is needed for all of us. All of us in every step of the way, we need spiritual help. And this was happening right in the middle of the biggest battle of the whole history. So staying with this theme, you see this sadhu right there in the mid, right? He's smoking. And why is the sadhu smoking? Sadhu is smoking because he has gone to being a sadhu or sannyasi before purifying his heart, before doing his prescribed duty. And that is the key of this discussion we are having today. The sadhu is smoking because he has left his family, he has desires in his heart. He did not take time to purify, he didn't take time to practice, he did not take time to do the prescribed duty with his family, and suddenly become renunciation. And I was hearing that, some of the apples and bananas we get in the stores right now, they're not fully ripened. They have been plucked when they are unripe, and there are chemicals and gases used to ripen them. And when that happens, the premature thing happens, then it doesn't yield a very strong outcome. And this theme of his mind is impure. So if his mind is impure, his senses will act in an impure fashion, like he's very unregulated. So the mind is like the computer. Most of the cars right now are computers. And the wheel and everything, they're just following the computer, the microprocessor of the car. So the mind is the computer which drives our hands and limbs and drags us to different places. And if they're impure, our actions, our senses will be impure. We'll be craving for things which are very unregulated. Our mind is the computer, and the senses are just following, what is happening. So, Krishna said to Arjuna, "Hey, Arjuna, you want to go to forest, right? But your inner intent is your habit. You are a Kshatriya. You cannot beg forever there. You go there, you beg for alms. After some time, your agitation will come in because your habit has taken over, because that is the conditioning, and the sword will come out. You can't really even beg properly." See how nicely Krishna is explaining that if your habits with which you have lived for 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, and suddenly you're asked to do something else, you can't do that properly. And that is where there are references where Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, inaction is unnatural. If you do nothing, you'll end up doing something. So Krishna is saying, Nahi kashit shanamapi, means everyone is forced to act helplessly according to the qualities he has acquired from the modes of material nature. Therefore, no one can refrain from doing something, not even for a moment. So we cannot just like that stay idle and do nothing and think that, obviously our, piety, our purity would all come out and we will come up with the exemplary outcome. It's not practical because we have lived with this. And you might have heard about the blue jackal story, which I don't want to go now because I have a lot to cover. So that blue jackal story, he has lived all his life in certain trait, certain habit, certain nature. And all of a sudden you make him something else, he can't really stay like that. So it is very important to understand this verse 3.33 where Krishna is explaining, and that is where Krishna is asking the biggest question on here. So Krishna is actually doing a twist here. If you think about it, Krishna is doing a twist in this verse by saying, what can repression accomplish? What can discipline accomplish? And that is the classic line which we're kind of trying to dwell in, those three lines, those three words in this verse. And that is exactly what the sadhu is going through by doing premature sannyas. He is ending up doing smoking. So we do the prescribed duty based on our varna. You see a teacher here who is teaching like a brahmana, and you have a kshatriya who is like uh, like an administrator or protector. Then you have the trader here who is trying to do some business, and then you have the artisan who is plowing the fields. So the teacher is controlled by more uh, sattva more of the mode of goodness. Then administrator has more mode of passion, and the trader has a mixture of passion and ignorance, and the artisan has that quality of the tamoguna. So these modes are really controlling their habits of nature or varna. And this has nothing to do with the caste system. This is purely a varnashram, which is the x-axis being varna and y-axis being ashrama, being brahmacharya, grihastha, vanaprastha, and sannyas. We have this x and y-axis matrix we all have gone through. So there is four varnas, which are essentially the tata you see: T being teacher, A being administrator, T being trader, and A being artisans. So there has been an inherent habit in doing so. So now of the tree, we are really migrating to the R side now, where the lowest rungs of the yoga ladder being the karma kanda. Sometimes what we do is we end up doing some puja in our house for good harvest. We want to start a business on a very auspicious day of Akshaya Tritiya. So that is karma kanda. That has nothing to do with yoga. It has no unison or union with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. However, the other three rungs, which you see right here, have some element of yoga. The karma yoga, and we'll try to break it down into sakama and niskama in the subsequent slides. Then you have with the jnana, you refine your knowledge. Then you basically try to acquire more and more knowledge in about your priorities, about your activities, and then that leads to liberation. And then at the end, you tend to have the direct service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead with pure love, which is nothing but bhakti yoga. But in all these things, there's something in this chapter which we are going through right now in our weekdays. There is an element of yajna. So this yajna should not be construed as the old method, because Krishna is the creator of this universe. So what happens is whenever you do yajna, the yajna kund is like the mouth of Vishnu, and the fire is like the tongue of Vishnu. When you do this, so the fire, then evaporation happens with the fire, and with the evaporation, the rain culminates. From the rain, the harvesting happens, and from harvesting, the grains come, and from grains, people eat, and then they procreate. And after procreation, they do the Krishna conscious activity, which is nothing but that yajna. So this yajna is very critical to the understanding of the karma. Karma without yajna has no meaning, because when we were born, these trees were there, right? The rivers were there. We did not create it. So somebody else created it. And because we are using their facilities, and we don't have that attitude of gratitude, and that is because we think by virtue of our knowledge we know everything, and there is someone by the nature, by the procreation, the entire the hills, the mountains, the rivers, the streams have come, and we're using it, but we do not have a sense to give it back to them. Don't feel that element of appreciation for the supreme creator. And that is exactly why now we have so much of problem in every step of the way, because we think we're the proprietor of everything. And that's why there are so many wars happening right now. So this yajna is a cyclical thing, with yajna, evaporation, rain, harvest, grain, eat and procreate, then Krishna conscious activity and yajna. And that is the essence of this middle of this chapter as to why we have to have that sense of attitude of gratitude. Then there are three types of karma, and there is work which are not prescribed, in the sense they are bad work, which is called vikarma, and then there is karma, which is good work. But that good work also, it gives you reaction, because it gives you good reaction, so that you have to. So you do something good, you go up in the planetary system, then because you have some good interest, right? The bank is not going to retain the interest, they are going to give it to you. So you have to use that interest up. You have to use that uh, as a good reaction. So you have to come down to enjoy it. But once that interest is gone, you're back to square one. So this karma, the good work also has some challenges, but there is a A-class karma Krishna has done for you, and that A-class karma is akarma, which is the devotional activity with no reaction, and that is the A-class karma. It doesn't have any reaction. When you bow down in the temple, or you do some activity for the temple, you're not really helping anybody actually. You're just having a personalized relationship with the Supreme, and that has no reaction. That doesn't have that binding interest. And nowadays, the interest can be negative as well because of the devaluation. So the creation, we did not create the trees, we did not create the river. So in Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, I have created all this. The sun shines out of fear of me, and the clouds, Indra sends showers out of fear of me. Fire burns out of me, and death goes over talking its toll fear. So Krishna in Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam 3.25-42 says that all these things have been actually created by me. And when we have created all these things, you end up forget about the climate accord and anything which is happening right now, but we do not have the audacity to take care of the mother nature. And whenever we have our salaries, there will be tax deductible at source. They will take out the tax right from the beginning without even we knowing how much the tax is. But instead, we do not care to do the TDS, the Transcendental Devotional Service. However, the TDS has been already taken from our salary. And we never feel the element of the attitude of the gratitude by trying to do some TDS for the progenitor, the creator, and that is why we do not do. And that is where we have to think when this mechanical processes are built and they take the TDS, but this, this earth, this Mother Earth, which has been created, Mother Nature is the mother, and we do not do anything for that. And the Lord has created all these things for us, and that is, so insensitive. So what should we do actually? What is true duty in that sense? So there are a lot of lists we can go into, but essentially, in order to sort of lead a life with a devotional angle, we should be doing some prescribed duty based on how scriptures are written, and there's a big list. But for the sake of time, there's one or two I just picked, which is going to help us for anyone in this call. The intent of all this call is to really purify all of us, including me, an intent to not cheat, stay regulated, take care of the family, not like somebody who with arrogance, but take care of the family as if it's your duty. And there is an element of a lot of these reference in the scriptures, and also treat the nature as the mother and the Supreme Personality of Godhead as Father, because he says, Aham bija padaprita. Aham bija padaprita. That means he's the seed-giving father of everyone. And that's why the nature, man, and the God is such a critical discussion right now. And we just have to be cognizant about that. So going to the R side, we have the yoga ladder. So if you think about the yoga ladder, the extended yoga ladder, right from the bottom, I couldn't put it in a picture, but it will have a very pictorial view. Then you have the animal life, where all of a sudden people were living like eating, mating, sleeping, defending. That was everything they were doing. And then they step up and try to get some benefit by doing some yajna, doing some karma kanda. Then then that culminates into an element of doing something for the benefit of yourself in the form of a material benefit. Because our karma, in the beginning, karma 101, with the karma stands for Krishna conscious activity, renouncing material attachment. The Sakama Karma Yoga is done by the bodily limbs, and then Niskama Karma Yoga is not expecting anything in return, but that is still lower in terms of the yoga rungs of Jnana Yoga, where the mind is really taking care of it. And then you have the Ashtanga Yoga, where the intelligence is coming, but the real topmost thing is Bhakti Yoga, because it is done at the heart, and in the heart our soul resides, because Krishna, as a soul and super soul, resides in our heart, and Bhakti Yoga is done at the heart. So the heart is actually controlling all the intelligence, mind, bodily limbs. So thinking that Bhakti Yoga is not any of these lower, Bhakti Yoga encompasses everything, because when the heart is in control, intelligence comes naturally, minds get aligned properly, limbs start working in the right way of waking up early. But if the Bhakti Yoga is not there and the other things are there, it's not incorrect, but they're incomplete. And that is where the extended yoga ladder is a long path of this. But the progressive yoga ladder, if you think about it, you just end up doing the karma kanda, then sakama karma, then niskama karma, then bhava and prema. So that's the difference between the extended yoga ladder and the progressive yoga ladder. Just trying to run through some of this, but there is an express yoga ladder. When you have 25 storied building, you really do not go step by step. You go into elevator, put 25, and then immediately go up. So you leading an animal life of eating, meeting, sleeping, defending, but then you associate with devotees, which we are exactly doing on a Saturday evening. Instead of seeing TV and the mundane things, you associate with devotees, you surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then you do some chanting, sadhana bhakti, and then you have the love, the inherent love, or bhava, and then you build into prema bhakti. So it's express yoga ladder. You don't have to go step by step, 1, 2, 3, 4 to 25. Just put it in a elevator directly. Whatever you are, your conditioning, you may be from any part of the world, but love is the inherent thing in the heart, and love transcends all the barriers. You'll see in the physical sense also there is an element of love, and you have so much of love going on. You have people who are interacting with everyone, but Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and loving him is a very constitutional position, and that comes by default. So it's basically default setting. Jiber Shurup Hai Krishna Nityadas. That means our default setting is to have an loving relationship with the Supreme as the servant. And whenever there is that element of current which happens with the Labhamatra Sadhu Sangha Sarvasiddhi Hoy, then that spark comes. And that's the reason why there are devotees which get turned to Krishna consciousness in few months, and there are devotees who can't even come to Krishna consciousness. The reason why the devotees turn to Krishna consciousness fast, some devotees, because this process is very simple, and the people who are simple can understand the simplicity. If we're complex, we can never understand it, and that's the reason why some of the greatest devotees are done just like that. So that's the express yoga ladder. And going to the third letter in the karma yoga, E, which are the exemplary karma yogis, Janak Maharaj was totally taking care of the kingdom. He was in an assembly, and he was hearing scriptures, and then he mentioned to one of his assistants, "Hey, you go. There is fire in that part of the kingdom. You go and quench the fire." Totally in control of the kingdom with the prescribed duties. and he never left the place. People went to take care of the fire. But in addition to the people living, there are some people in the assembly, by sheer fear and attachment, they also left, thinking that their house may get burned down. So see, he was a perfect king. Actually, he was exactly doing karma yogi. He was a person who is written. He is one of the Mahajans, and he's the father of Mother Sita, and how he exemplified karma yogi. So do your best and leave Krishna to rest. And whenever there is a uh, competition to run between a horse and a dog, horse will always win. Whenever there is a competition for barking, horse will never win, dog will win. So the habits and nature we have inculcated through our conditioning, we cannot change overnight. And overnight, when you try to renounce all of that by trying to be escapist, you eventually become a Baba who is smoking in the first slide we touched. So, whenever you think about some of the challenges which are posed to us, because we are so much uh, controlled by our desire and urge, that we all have material desire in some form or shape. But here Krishna is not asking us to leave whatever you have in the form of a family, in the form of a job. Krishna is saying you don't have to do anything to get rid of what you're doing. Stay in the confines of what you're doing, but we can put some practice in place. We can put some regulation in place to help all of us. So that's the reason why, without purification, if you do some steps, like say, for example, if a person is in third grade and he or she hasn't mastered the art of doing the math which is prescribed for third grade, and you all of a sudden give him a jump to go to fourth grade, he or she is going to flunk. So that is why Krishna consciousness is a scientific process. And once the scientific process is understood, what is science? You have a theory, you apply the theory in the form of a postulate or axiom on a certain experiment, and then you see the result. And once you see the result, you match whether this result is matching with the expected result. And that's how you sign off the fact that this is pure science. And look at what Krishna consciousness is. Krishna consciousness is saying, chant uh, the the names of Hari, Harer Nama, Harer Nama, Harer Nama Kevalam, Kalo Nasteva, Nasteva, Nasteva Gati Anyatha, because in this age of Kali, that's the only medicine. You can't take a medicine for sprain when you have fever. You have to take the right medicine. Kalo Nasteva, Nasteva, Nasteva Gati Anyatha. In this age of Kali, there is no other medicine. But in addition to chanting the holy name, stay regulated. If you are in India, go in the left side of the road. Don't go in the right side of the road because you'll meet with an accident. If you're in US, go in the right side of the road. So the regulation, the four pillars of dharma, we earlier talked about in our Bhakti Vriksha. Stay regulated and chant the holy name. You yourself will see the result. The anger will stay controlled. The urges will diminish. The habits are going to refine. Then you transcend to the subsequent stage of our lifestyle in the form of devotional service. So in the scriptures, the last slide, it talks about the last E. What is the enemy of the soul? We all have the urge to speak, and you know about the frog in the well. By doing a lot of quacking, the frog entices the snake to come and eat him. Likewise, the enemy of the soul is our urge to speak. We have a lot of demands from our mind. We have a lot of anger issues. We have the urge of the tongue, urge of the belly, where in the prior discussion we discussed that we should not overeat, and the urge of the genitals. So these urges we have to reduce. These urges we have to control. Ravana had a chaste wife, but he was not satisfied. He wanted more. So he grabbed someone else's wife. Didn't stay with regulation. Duryodhan could have ruled the entire world minus 5 villages. Didn't do it. Didn't um, limit his urge, limit his desire. So I would like to save some time for questions. I'd like to end here by just summarizing what is karma. And this aspect of karma is very often misunderstood. And that's where Krishna is not making it hard. Krishna is making it easy by saying, and what a second sentence he says in this verse. And that is so difficult. And that is why many Mayavadi religious organizations have used this fourth line, Nigraha Kim Karishyati, as their motto. Because they will say, okay, what is there to change? There is nothing to change. There is nothing to discipline. So that's why, because Krishna is asking a question, what can repression accomplish? What can discipline accomplish? And it can be taken in a totally opposite context, which they do. And that's why you see so many sannyasis who fall down, who are not regulated. They have multiple, unregulated interaction with different people. And that is where His divine grace has given us the best path forward by trying to hone our skills. I mean, when you think about some of the way the world is changing and how we can tune ourselves to adjust and still coexist with our habit. If you have a habit where you like food, you don't have to change the habit. If you relish food, Krishna consciousness gives us the opportunity to create whatever kind of nice food we can prepare for the pleasure of the Lordships. You don't have to change the habit. If you like music, for example, you don't have to change that. You can sing beautiful kirtan for the pleasure of the Lordships. If you want to decorate your house, there is opportunity to decorate the temple. So we don't have to change any habit. We just have to dovetail that habit into the liking of Krishna by deriving a higher taste. So with that, I'd like to end here by just saying, changing the habit overnight is not going to help us achieve our karma. However, tuning our habit in terms of accepting or embracing the regulative principles can get us better. And that is where the four themes which really emerged from karma yoga is starting with renunciation, the yoga ladder, and some of the exemplary karma yogis, and what is the enemy. So if we have understood this four aspects, we have understood karma yoga 101. However, some of our acharyas would go very detailed and deep into this karma yoga. And karma yoga is not about escaping from our prescribed duty, but having a taste to renunciate the material activities and have a sense to build that loving relationship with the Lord by directly going in the elevator from the first floor to 25th floor, by bypassing all this Stanga yoga, the exercises, because we are not the body, we are the soul, and take inspiration from exemplary karma yogis. There are plenty, Ambarish Maharaj, um, so many exemplary karma yogis, Janakji, and then how to control the urges. If we have understood this four attributes of karma yoga, I think we would be rightly placed to understand the subsequent instruction, which is the Jnana Yoga, which is chapter 4, Transcendental Knowledge. So with that, I'd like to end here with Karma 101, Krishna conscious activity, renouncing material attachment, which is nothing but karma. And if you have any comments and question, please ask so that I will get a chance to benefit from your reflections. Thank you so much. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Hare Krishna.
Jai, thank you so much, Prabhuji. Wonderful class. So anybody has any comments, reflections, questions, concerns, anything to add? Please do so. So what is 101, Prabhuji? Is it 101 or 101?
It's 101. Generally, when we have any subject, right? Any management 101 or physics 101. So whenever we have this subject in various universities, they will have a basic course. So this is just a basic course on Karma Yoga. So that's why I named it 101. Generally, when you go to these universities, you will see accounting 101. That means that is the basic course on accounting. So this is just a basic, run through of the verses and how it has been grouped into different categories.
Okay, thank you, Prabhuji. Anybody has anything to add? Anybody else? Okay. Okay, so I think it's well explained. Every doubts have been cleared. It seems like. Yeah. Very well. Wonderful.
Amritanand Prabhu is smiling.
Yeah, of course.
Prabhu, okay, I'll ask a question. On this purpose of yajna, correct? So you do the yajna, there's evaporation, goes up, forms the clouds, and the rains come, grains, and so on and so forth. The process as it has been explained. I'm trying to understand, if we look at science and geography, it happens because of the sun. Sun evaporates the river water bodies, the river, ocean, so on and so forth, which has clouds and winds push them over, and then rains, so on and so forth. Now, rains happen even in atheistic places like communist countries of China and Russia. There's no question of yajna. So much so, even in what used to be previously traditional or religious countries like our home country of India, as time goes back, there's no more yajna. so to say, which was happening. So how do we understand this specific aspect that yajna is the one which gives rains, which mankind can live, continue through grains and so on and so forth?
Nice question, Prabhu. And also there was a prior question to me about, how come all these pious activities, they all happened in India, in Kurukshetra and the four dhams. But the only way to understand this with the Brahman is to diverge deep into the scriptures. However, in other places, they do not do yajna, as you rightly said, in Russia, in China. They are very atheistic, but still they get rain. And they also have other understanding, which from their perspective is not acceptable to us. But only thing I can say, Prabhu, to this is the aspect of Sabda Praman, and that is from the scriptures. But when we hear this consistent reference to the Sabda Praman from scriptures about this yajna, so this yajna can be understood not as a pure physical phenomena. The yajna in the sense of a homa which takes place, and then that fire, they say the yajna kund is like the mouth of Vishnu, and the flames are the tongue of Vishnu as depicted in the Scripture. But we can also refer to yajna as sacrifice, and there is Sankirtan yajna. There is so many other yajnas in the form of sacrifice, which we end up doing. It has benefits in that sense. Like the karma kandis, they do some benefit in the form of a Sitosena. That means when the kid is about to be born, there is some purificatory process. And then when the first hair offering is done, it is a sacrifice in the form of giving the hair to the Supreme. And the Annadan is a sacrifice. So these are spiritual practices. And I also have that material question in my mind as to, and the only way I can understand this, Prabhu, is through the Sabda Praman. I don't know whether it met your understanding, but that's my only saving grace.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Dharat Pranam. This is Damodar Dasas. I have a comment, Prabhu. If it is okay, I can make a comment on this.
Please, Prabhuji.
I think karma is not Shashwat, basically. Karma doesn't happen right away. Especially in Kali Yuga, right? Person who is doing so many sinful activities, right? For example, someone may be president and he may be doing so many sinful activities, right? And nothing happens to him, right? That person. So karma is very complex, right? And it doesn't have to happen immediately. It can happen after many births or many, it's very difficult to understand, I think. That's one thing, right? So that's what I would say.
Yes, Prabhuji.
So if you look at as a face value, the current world, we will be bewildered and we will not believe in karma, basically, right?
Exactly. Exactly, Prabhu. So, Prabhu, if you are done, can I just try to respond in one way? See, there are certain medicines, right? Once a person had a scar on his knee, he was having blood coming out. So when he was having blood coming out from his knee, he went to the doctor. Doctor said, take this 6 pills and you pop it once a day for 6 days. It will dry up. But then the person said, the blood is coming from my knee. Should I just mash the 6 medicines and put gradually on the knee? It will go away. Doctor said, no. I know how to deal with this. So just follow and eat it one medicine a day. So likewise, karma has some have long-term effects, some have short-term effect. In the example of the president who is doing all the abominable activities, in order for the karma to get him, it may get him towards the later part of his life, towards his subsequent life, but based on his karmic reaction, as we know, he can transmigrate to a different individual. That individual may be a human being, a non-human being. So, as you rightly said, it's very difficult to understand, but because here in our app life, everything happens instantly. The money is taken from the credit card immediately. So we have to give Sabda Praman from the scripture a chance that this person who is doing Vikarma all his life, this president in this example, Divya Prabhu, he is definitely going to get the reaction. And that is our acharyas and the spiritual scriptures have said. And it will get to him, the karma will get to him. And I would not characterize karma as a low-level entity. Karma for Krishna consciousness is bhakti. Everything dovetailing into Krishna consciousness is bhakti, whether it is karma or it is jnana. And for us, karma is also bhakti. If you do nothing and stay at home and don't even go to the temple or do any service, it's not prescribed. So I thought I'll just add this. Thank you so much, Roji. If you want to add something, we can.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. I think I also read somewhere. Prabhupada also did, like, there was a famine in some place of the world somewhere, I don't know which place, and Prabhupada and devotees did kirtan. Prabhupada asked the devotee to do kirtanas, 24-hour kirtans, and very extensive, nice kirtana, and he has proven that rain was coming after that, after the kirtan. So, that's another thing, right? So I guess kirtan is also some kind of yagna, Sankirtan yagna, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yes, I have heard that also. Was it Mayapur?
Hyderabad.
Hyderabad? Okay.
Yeah, I think it was Hyderabad, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, they did kirtan and the rains came.
Nice. Yes, absolutely. Thank you for sharing, Prabhuji. Yes, very nice. We have seen the benefit in our lives, and I'm sure it's opportunity for us to share our understanding, and hope it makes sense. Subal Prabhu is there. Matajis are there. I think Saturdays are becoming less attended, Prabhu. But it doesn't matter. But I don't know, people have work maybe, right? Yeah.
Saturdays are low attendance.
Yeah, it's okay. So that's all right, Prabhu. We can end here. Prabhuji is on mute.
Okay then, Prabhuji. Okay, Hari Bol. Thank you so much. Already 9:04. Let's conclude then today's session. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for having a wonderful class. Vancha kalpadarubhasya kripa sindhubhyev cha padidhanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai. Jai Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaurav Premarande. Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Hemajaganath Prabhu. Very nice class. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you.